Hello and welcome back. This is Isaac and you're watching ACT Reading. We're closing to the final few chapters or final few lessons, and I'm hoping that you've picked up something as you went along, right? I mean, I'm hoping really that you've understood how to read the passages as minimally as possible and as accurately as possible, and try to find the answers to the questions as minimally as possible and as accurately as possible, right? And also try not making any mistakes, and also learning some of the strategies behind the reading passage or reading test itself. So we're going to take a look at one other real test today, and of course this you can get from anywhere. But you could Google this. You can Google this right now, or you can put this right now, this address, into your address bar, and you would get the PDF file right away. You can download it and you can print it out, or you can look at it on your tablet or whatnot. I mean, I don't really care. But this would be our topic today. All right. Now this particular real test is 0964E or C. I'm not so sure about the end note there, but this was a real test back in, I think, either 2012 or 2011. All right, so this would definitely help you in understanding the real trend of ACT, and of course, this will also let you know the real, the difficulty level of the ACT testing itself. All right. So remember, as we go along this real test, you realize that it would be a little different from what you've read so far. So far, you've read the things that were quite easy. So far, you've read the things that are up to a level of, say, of a medium level or intermediate level. Now we're going into the higher levels, and so you will definitely feel that the passages or the questions themselves could be a little bit more difficult than they used to be, or the ones that we used to look at. All right, so let's get started. Excuse me, I have a cold, I think. All right, so let's move on to passage 1, the prose fiction. Now remember what we did the last time, right? The last few lessons, what we did was to learn the test strategy. But today, what we're going to do is, since you already know the test strategy, or at least you've looked at the test strategies, what we're going to do with this one is that we're going to go with this one in an in-depth manner, right? And of course, talk about the strategies, and so you could pick up, one or two things about the real test. All right, let's move on. So this is passage 1, prose fiction, okay? So of course the first thing always is to read this part of it, right? This passage is adapted from the short story The Threshold by Cristina Peri Rossi, right? Or Rossi or Rossi, that's Rossi, I think that's an Italian name. Originally Spanish version, so that's a Spanish name, 1986 by Cristina Peri Rossi, translation by 1993 by Mary Jane Treacy, right? So anyways, either way, you know that this was written back in 1986 and it was retranslated or translated in 1993. So remember, this is a translated version of the original Spanish version, right? So you would often see sometimes, a little bit intriguing and a little bit vague, or at least a little bit, a little bit, I would have to say, a little bit there are things that are a little bit difficult to understand, because being this entire novel being Spanish version, right? And it was translated to the English version. And of course, in between those translations, there must have been meanings lost, right? So therefore, you have to read this carefully as you can. All right, so anyways, the title says The Threshold. So you know what a threshold is, right? A threshold is a little, if this is a door from the sideway, right? So if this is a door, you would have that, you'd have that sort of an edge on that part of the doorway, right? That's what we call threshold. Now, I used to know the meaning of this word, into the root, right, at the etymology of this word. But threshold is supposed to be something that holds you back, right? Remember, the door is a sign of, say, enlightenment, right? Especially the door that is half, doors that is a half open, right? That is a sign of enlightenment. That is a sign of the knowledge, right? Threshold is. So therefore, a threshold is something that stops you from learning something, or that might be a limit to, or at least that might be some kind of a barrier, or that could be some kind of an indicator or mark in which you are going to learn something. You're going to learn something beyond that threshold. Okay, so that's what it does. So threshold, it holds. the knowledge or the person, right? So if that is in your head, you can definitely say that this is going to be very difficult passage, because it's going to talk about the learning or enlightenment or some sort of that, some sort of the topic or some sort of the theme that's within that boundaries or the realm of realm of enlightenment or learning, right? So therefore we need to read this carefully. All right, so first thing first, always we're going to read the first sentence and the last sentence of the first introductory paragraph. So if you read that, the woman never dreams, and this makes her intensely miserable. We know that the main character is the woman, right? And she never dreams, and this makes her intensely miserable. So I guess what the author is saying is that not dreaming is intensely miserable, right? Not dreaming is intensely miserable. We're not going to read the entire thing, but we're going to read the last sentence of the first paragraph, or the introductory paragraph. So we'll read from here, right? Or we'll read from here, I'm sorry. So it says, but in truth, the door to that nightmare doesn't have a latch or a knocker, right? It is total surface, brown, high and smooth as a wall. Our blows strike a body without an echo. So I guess we read the two sentences, but you can only read this sentence as well. Doesn't really matter, right? So let's just skip all that and read this. Our blows strike a body without an echo. So our blows strike a body without an echo. So it's silent blow to our body, right? So from this, what you can tell is, just wrap it up and say, a woman without a dream, the woman without a dream feels miserable, or is intensely miserable. That's one thing that we can get, right? Now, you can relate to this in your own way, because having a dream, everybody dreams. That's for a fact. Even if you don't remember that dream, or even if you don't remember you dreaming, you always dream, because that's a part of process. Human beings will have to dream in order to recollect the data, if you will, right? Or recollect the memories that you've gotten over the day, and try to compile it and try to make sense out of it. Because what humans do is, if we can't make sense out of it, we tend to reject it, right? We tend to reject the entire notion or the idea or even the memory. So therefore, what we do is we keep constantly stitching these memories together, right? So those people who study dreams say it is a subconscious projecting itself into the conscious realm, or at least conscious realms like projecting itself to the subconscious realm, and so therefore there's like some kind of a bridge between, or a bridge made between, and so therefore you dream things that are impossible, but they're not that far-fetched, because they're somehow related to what you did, or what you some might possibly say what you will do in the future, because that's what humans do. They find meaning into whatever the memories they get obtained during the day. And of course, you intuitively know what you will do the next day about a problem, right? About the problem that is already there. And so therefore you make that connection. Those people who read dreams, right? For example, in Korea, dreaming becomes a part of important, fortune telling, right? For example, if you dreamt of, say, a certain object, such as blood, or dead bodies, or fire, right? These are supposedly related with wealth that you will gain later on. But if you remember, your subconscious already had projected that, for example, the day before you were talking to somebody and your business is going well, or whatever the reasons are, right? Whatever the reasons are, it will happen, right? So therefore, that draws that relationship between. So here in the first paragraph, what you had to understand was that woman who does not dream, right? Woman who never dreams, and this is making her intensely miserable. And this is like a blow to our body without an echo. That's what you can probably relate, right? Okay, second paragraph. Since this is a one sentence, we'll read the entire thing. It says, there's no such thing as a door without a key, she tells me, with the stubborn resistance of one who does not dream. So me, the narrator, right, is looking at this woman, and this woman is telling her that there's no such thing as a door without a key. So she's saying that every door has the key, right? And then it says, she tells me, with the stubborn resistance of one who does not dream, right? So the woman, the narrator, is probably telling her, right, something like, there are sometimes keys without doors without keys. And then the woman who does not dream say, there's no such thing. I can dream. I'm able to dream. So don't give me that, that nonsense. That's what she's saying. So that's what the whole idea is flowing to. And then the third paragraph, it says, there are in dreams, I tell her. So she's still telling her, right? There are in dreams. There are in dreams, meaning, yes, there is. Yes, there are doors without keys in dreams. That's what she's saying, right? So they're still arguing over this idea of dreams and what kind of state there could be in dreams. And of course, if you remember what the idea here is that she never dreams, right? So she doesn't know what dreams look like. The woman who never dreams does not know what the dreams look like. And so therefore, you can definitely say, yeah, there are in dreams. So you've never dreamt before, so you don't know. But there are doors without keys in dreams, right? That's what the narrator is obviously saying. The fourth paragraph, she says, she thinks that the woman who does not dream is the enemy of the waking woman because she robs her of parts of herself. So she, the woman who does not dream, thinks that the woman who does not dream, so she thinks that herself is the enemy of the waking woman. So waking woman is, I guess, a woman who's awake, right? Because she robs her of parts of herself, takes away the wild excitement of revelation when we think we have discovered something that we didn't know before or that we had forgotten. So therefore, it's very complicated because it says she and the woman who does not dream and the enemy of the waking woman, because she robs her of parts of herself. And so what we're saying is that the woman who does not dream, right, the woman who does not dream is the enemy of the waking woman because she, the woman who does not dream, robs her of the part of herself. So what it means is, if you understand it a little carefully, she thinks, the narrator thinks, right, or the woman who does not dream think that the woman who does not dream will steal something from the woman who's awake. So obviously what it means is that because she doesn't dream, because the woman who does not dream doesn't dream of, different things. She doesn't know like that. I don't know how to put that dream as into, but a dream, right? I guess it's such an important part, and the woman who does not dream is stealing from the waking woman, right? A part of herself, takes away the wild excitement of revelation when we think we have discovered something that we didn't know before or that we had forgotten. So this is obviously related with the previous sentence, right? The previous sentence here saying that, there are things in dreams, right? There are those things in dreams. And because the woman who does not dream never have dreamt before, she doesn't know what the dream looks like. And so therefore she thinks that the woman who does not dream is stealing a part of, right? And takes away the excitement of the revelation of when we think we have discovered something that we didn't know before, we had forgotten. You get the idea, right? And then the next idea says, a dream is a piece of writing, she said sadly. A work that I don't know how to write, and that makes me different from others, all the human beings and animals who dream, right? So she's very depressed and say, a dream is like a piece of writing, and she doesn't know how to do it because she's never dreamt before, right? And that's why she says that she's probably very sad. And then the next says she's like a tired traveler who stops at the threshold and stays there stationary as a plan. So she refers to herself as a traveler, right? A tired traveler who stopped at the threshold. The threshold is, that the door, right? The door, it's the hinge, or it's that edge or the groove or whatever you may call it, just before the door, just before you enter a door, right? So that's what she's saying. She's a tired traveler. And then it says, in order to console her, so in order to make her feel better, the narrator tell her that perhaps she is too tired to cross through the doorway. Maybe she spends so much time looking for her dream before falling asleep that she doesn't see the images when they appear because her exhaustion has made her close those eyes that are inside of her eyes, right? So therefore, she's saying, don't worry about it too much. I think you're very tired, I think maybe you are trying too hard, right? Trying too hard to dream, and therefore you become so tired, and so you close your mind's eye as well. That's what she's saying, to try to console her, that is. So, not necessarily when you're trying to console someone, it doesn't mean that you will always tell that person the truth, and you can sometimes lie, and it's called the white lie, right? So maybe she's lying about the whole thing. But anyways, let's move on. It says, I wish I could open them. She says simply, right? I wish I could open them. Open what? Definitely, it's the open eyes, right? She wishes that she could open those eyes and dream like everybody else, right? And then it says, sometimes she asked me to tell her my dreams, and I know that later in the privacy of her room, with the light out, hiding, she'll try to dream my dream. So the narrator thinks, right, that if she tells the woman who does not dream her dream, then she will go back to her own room, right? Hide in the dark, and she will try to dream her dream. Okay, that's what she's saying. So you kind of get what this is going through, right? Or what this is going to. You know that the passage that we're talking about is mostly related with the dream part of it, right? The dream associated with enlightenment, or dream associated with knowledge, or dream associated with something important. And there's a woman who does not dream, and so therefore, it's the interaction between the woman who dreams and woman who does not dream. Okay? And then moving on to the next paragraph, it says, just as children can't stand any slight change and love repetition, she insists that I tell her the same dream 2 or 3 times, a tale full of people I don't know. So again, she wants her to tell her the dream, right? The woman who does not dream wants her, the narrator, to tell her the dream 2 or 3 times repetitively, like the children asking for stories or bedtime stories, right? And then it says, strange forms, unreal happenings on the road, right? And she becomes annoyed if in the second version there are some elements that were not in the first. Of course, it's a dream, and nobody remembers the dream perfectly, right? You know that. And of course, those people who do is what we call lucid dream, and I even think lucid dreams are also, unreliable. Like you never seem to quite understand what you've dreamt, but you remember what you dreamt, but you remember what you dreamed, but then the problem is you don't really remember what you dreamed. It's almost there, but you can't really quite grab it, right? You can't quite grab what actually had happened in the dream, right? I mean, a lot of you out there would feel the same way, right? So that's what we're talking about. The second version of it is different, and so she get a little bit annoyed and agitated because the first story and the second story seems not to collaborate each other. Okay. And the next paragraph says, the one she likes best is the amniotic dream. Amniotic is, of course, you know what amniotic is, right? Amniotic is a fetal state, or it's where the fetus is within the womb of its mother, right? So amniotic dream, the dream of water. So in this case, of course, the womb is filled with amniotic fluid, and so it's the dream of water that she likes. And then it says she in turn would like to dream of flying, or was it slipping from the tree away above the rooftop. So she wants to dream of herself flying, right? Or like slipping from tree to tree above the rooftops of different houses or whatnot, right? So that would be the idea. So in the last few parts, we're talking about the dream itself, what kind of dream that woman who does not dream wants to dream about. You see how it's a little bit different from the prose fictions that we've looked at so far? It's quite difficult, right? It's it's a little bit more difficult than the ones that we used to look at, and But the understanding of the passage itself is about the same, right? You had to read the first sentence, the last sentence of the first paragraph, the first sentences, and then you had to join these ideas. Now remember, background information is quite crucial in understanding these passages, because background information will give you some kind of an assistance for you to connect those dots and draw a line through these stories. Okay, so remember always that. Okay, so we understand that this is a story between two women, one who does not dream and one who probably dreams, and one who does not dream thinks that she's not dreaming, and it's making her really sad. And the woman who dreams wants to make her feel better and tells her that you shouldn't try too hard. You can dream if you really not try hard. And then she's like, yeah, I want to dream as well. But then probably the woman who does not dream asks the narrator to tell her of her dream, so that she can, at least she can feel what it feels like to dream, right? And so she tells her the dreams, or at least she tells her what she dreamt of, and then Of course, the first version, second version different, so she sometimes feels agitated. But then, they talk about in the last few paragraphs, they talk about her favorite dream. Her favorite dream is the amniotic dream, which is a water dream, right? So maybe she's in the water, maybe she's swimming in the water, maybe she's floating in the water. I don't know what not, right? But that's the water dream she likes. And then she also, in turn, right, would like to dream of flying, right, from house to house, right, or trees from trees. That's what the entire story looks like. Okay, now, understanding that, let's move on to the passage and see if we can look at it better, right? Or at least we could solve the questions. All right, number 1. It says, which of the following best describes the structure of the passage, right? So structures are quite easy because you know that the structures, for example, if it's a conversational or if there are dialogues involved, you can definitely say it's conversational or a dialogue. Or you could say it is a first-person narrative, just narrating the entire story, or either way, right? So let's take a look at that. A, is it a dialogue between two people in which both related their dreams in almost equal amount of detail? Or is it an account of the narrator's perspective on the woman revealed primarily through the narrator's report of their conversations? Or is it a character sketch of two people as related by narrator who knows both of them and their thoughts? Or is it detailed narration of several of the narrator's dreams accompanied by a description of the woman's reaction to them? So which one of these makes sense to you the most, right? So of course we'll take a look at the answers. First of all, definitely B, right? Why is that? Because first of all, A, dialogue between the two people and both relate their dreams. That's false, right? Not really. One does dream and one doesn't dream. And then see a character sketch of two people as they relate by a narrator who knows both of them. No, there are no three people. Here in this case, a narrator and then both of them, so two people. But we're talking about the narrator and the woman who does not dream, two only, so C is definitely out of the question. D, a detailed narration of several of the narrator's dreams. Not several of the narrator's dreams, no, and there are no details. Only the amniotic, probably only if there are. This is the only dream that they talk about. This is the only dream that is supposedly very detailed, right? Nothing else. So therefore, this is probably not it. And then it says a description of the woman's reaction to them. No, we don't really. Well, there is a reaction to the dream by the woman who doesn't dream, but it's not a detailed one, or unless it's a description of it, right? So the best answer here has to be the account of narrator's perspective on the woman, right, revealed primarily through the narrator's report of their conversations, right? So because they were having conversations that she knows that she doesn't dream, and then she knows the state of her. So a woman who's revealed primarily, revealed meaning known, right? I mean understood primarily through the narrator's report of their conversations. That would be the best answer. It's an account of something, right? Okay, so the structure is, so you can read them carefully. You know that it's not a dialogue between the two people who dream equally the same. It's not a conversation between three people. It's only two people, and it's not a detailed description or a detailed narration of the several of the narrator's dreams, because you only see that one dream, the amniotic dream, which the woman who doesn't dream likes very much, right? And they describe it in detail. Nothing else. All right, so that would be your answer for number 1. You see the idea, right? Let's go to number 2. Based on the passage, which of the following statements best describes the overall attitudes of the narrator and the woman, right? So the narrator and the woman, and overall attitude. Overall attitude, all right? So let's take a look at it. F. The woman is frustrated and despairing while the narrator is supportive and reassuring. And G, the woman is bitter and resentful while the narrator is detached and uninterested. H, the woman is lonely and resigned while the narrator is optimistic and relaxed. The woman is dismayed and miserable while the narrator is discontent and angry. Now remember, if we remember it right, we know that the woman who doesn't dream is quite sad. A simple word would be sad, right? And therefore the woman who does dream wants to console her, make her feel better, right? So therefore, you can't say that the narrator is supportive. You could say that the narrator is supportive and reassuring, yes. You could say the narrator is detached and uninterested, no. You could say that narrator is optimistic and relaxed, yes. You couldn't say that narrator is discontented and angry, no, right? So therefore, you could say either F or H is your answer. So let's take a look at the woman now. Woman is frustrated and despairing. Or is she lonely and resigned? So which one would best describe the attitudes overall? Of course, the answer is F. Not that she's lonely and resigned, because resigned meaning like she's not interested about anything. Okay? But that's not true. Or she's lonely. That's not true. She doesn't feel lonely. It's just that she doesn't dream, and therefore that makes her feel like, she's missing out on a lot of things. And that makes her very frustrated and despairing. Like, oh, I'm never going to dream, sort of despair, right? So frustrated, and while the narrator is very supportive and reassuring, right? Where do you find that idea? Supportive and reassuring? Hey, don't worry about it. I think you're trying too hard. I think you can dream if you just relax, right? And she's like, yeah, I want to open those eyes as well, open those mind's eyes so I can dream. And then she tells her the stories, yes? Remember, she tells her dream stories. And therefore, you could definitely say that she's very supportive and she's very reassuring, okay? So the answer is F. Number 3. It can reasonably be inferred from the passage that the woman most strongly desires to attain which of the following qualities from dreaming. Remember, it's the woman who does not dream, right? The woman who does not dream. So what does she want to get? What sort of desires to attain? Which of the following qualities, right? She desires to attain which of the following qualities? Is it relaxation? Is it self-awareness? Or is it entertainment, or is it self-control? Now remember, what you need to understand is that, she probably wants something, right? But we don't know what that is until we have read the details of it. But we kind of know that she wants to dream anyways, right? And we know that appears in the very first or very beginning of the paragraph, right? So let's try to think about this. And this makes her intensely miserable. And then she thinks that by not dreaming, she's unaware of things about herself. She's unaware of the things about herself that dreams would surely give her, right? So if we read further, she doesn't have the door of dreams that opens every night to a question, the certainty of the days. She stays at the threshold and the door is always closed. So remember, enlightenment for her is always closed, and she stays at the threshold and refusing her entrance. I tell her that in itself it's a dream, a nightmare, to be in front of the door which will not open no matter how much you push at the latch or the pound on the knockers, right? So therefore, we can definitely say that what the woman wants is she wants to be aware of things about herself, right? Because she's unaware of it. And the dreams will definitely give her that, right? So if that's the idea, then what would it be? Would it be relaxation she wants, or is it self-awareness she wants, or is it entertainment she wants, or is it self-control she wants? It's definitely self-awareness she wants, right? Self-awareness. That's what she wants. She wants to be aware of herself, because in dreams, like, what human beings do with the dreams, right? Like I told you, what we do with the dreams is we do actually, go over, process the data that we have collected earlier, right? And we sort of edit it and make it into a nice piece of, remember, think of it this way. Think of your eyes and think of your head as a camera that records everything that you see and that you hear and that you feel as well, in this case, right? And if that's the idea, you see things every day. I mean, for 24/7, you look at things and you see things, and things just, and what you need to do is you need to edit it, because some of those things are unnecessary. Like, for example, you walk down the road and you see a lot of people and a lot of a lot of buildings and trees and whatnot. I mean, they may be beautiful, they may have some kind of meaning for you, but most of the times they don't, and so therefore you can erase that from your memory, right? If you can relate to this, think of like 10 years back. If you look at 10 years back, you don't remember every single little detail that you did on that exact day, right? You don't. Because what you do is you take out the unimportant actions that you've taken, or unimportant activities that you've done, but you only remember the important activities very vaguely, because you don't think that was important at all, right? If it was very important, your mind will remember it, just like like recording of that, right? But in your head, the director, right? They've cut up your film, or cut up the recorded film, and only stitched together those that are important. So same thing here. What happens is that dreams do that, and therefore it gives you meaning to life. And that meaning to life is, of course, being aware of yourself, meaning knowing who you are, and that can be projected into the dreams, and that would give you the life force or some kind of a force to move on to the next day, right? Because dreams are very essential in compiling these data and then moving on. Because, for example, you're angry, or you're angry at something or someone, or you've experienced traumatic experiences, right? You've went under a traumatic experiences. What happens with dream is that by dreaming you could cut out those unimportant, or those things that you want to forget, or those things that you possibly want to get rid of. They do get pushed aside in the subconscious, or sometimes they get pushed away forever, or maybe they get mostly pushed away by the subconscious, and that makes you be self-aware of yourself, and so therefore this would be your idea, right? Self-awareness. Okay, good. Nextly, number 4. Throughout the passage, the image of the door, remember, it's very important. I told you the door was very important from the beginning because we're talking about the threshold, is used primarily as a metaphor for the boundary between what? So boundary between maybe the real world and the dream world, right? Is it alertness and fatigue, dreams and nightmares, wakefulness and sleeping, and not dreaming and dreaming? So definitely, you could say definitely that the threshold itself is wakefulness and sleeping, but that's not true, right? Because in the woman's case, remember, in the woman's case, she's always standing. I'm sorry, I'm a terrible drawer, I told you, right? So she's standing on the threshold always. She couldn't move forward. She couldn't open that door, right? Because maybe that door is locked. And if she can cross that door, meaning that she could dream. And here it's not dreaming, right? That's the idea. So it's not the wakefulness and the sleeping part of it, right? Or it's not the dreams and nightmares. It's not the alertness and fatigue, but it's the dreaming and not dreaming. That's the important part, dreaming and not dreaming, because she's standing right there. If she were able to move to that other side, right? If she would be able to open that door and move into that other side, she could dream. But if she can, then she's still not dreaming. So what the narrator tells her is that maybe that's in itself a dream. It's like a nightmare. Right? It's like a nightmare where you can't dream, right? And so that's the idea here. So throughout the passage, the door is a metaphor for not dreaming and dreaming, or it's a boundary between. All right? Moving on to number 5. In relations to the first paragraph's earlier description of the nightmare, the narrator comments in line 10 to 13 primarily serves two. So let's take a look at 10 to 13. You already know the nightmare, right? Where she's standing on the threshold. She's trying to open the door. No matter how hard she pounds on the door, no matter how hard she pushes on the door, she can't open that door because she can't dream. Now, in lines 10 to 13, what does it say? So let's take a look at lines 10 to 13. Lines 10 to 13 is something that we sort of read, but we'll read again anyways, right? So here you go. But in truth, the door to that nightmare doesn't have a latch or a knocker. It is total surface, brown, high and smooth as wall. Our blows strike a body without an echo, right? So meaning, it's a door, right? It doesn't have a notch, it doesn't have a doorknob, or it doesn't have a knocker, right? It's just a big, smooth, brown door, right? And even if you take it really hard, even if you hit it really hard, it's just a quiet strike, meaning it doesn't even make a sound, right? Or it doesn't even make a little bit of a dent on that door. So that's what we're talking about. Then, what can we say? Primarily serve to what? Reveal how to alter a dream in progress, explain what caused the nightmare, or intensify the sense of hopelessness, or suggest the possibility of escape. You know, it's a door without a knob, without a knocker. Even if you knock on it real hard, you can't really, hear anything. Then definitely it is intensified the sense of the hopelessness, right? The hopelessness of not dreaming. That's the idea. Okay, she's hopeless, as in it's hopelessness. You can't really dream. It's really impossible to have that dream, because that door is in truth a brown, smooth door with no knobs and no knockers. It's just impossible to get in. Right? That's the idea. All right, good. Moving on. Number 6. Which of the following statements about the dream is best supported by the passage? Let's not go back to the passage yet, but let's just read it, right? It's narrator's favorite dream. The woman is particularly fond of hearing it related. The narrator has dreamed this dream many times. It is the dream that woman most strongly desires to dream. So, which of the following statement of the dream about the dream is best supported by the passage? So what are we talking about? The dream itself, right? We're not talking about a particular dream, but dream itself. So it is narrator's favorite dream. The woman is particularly fond of hearing it related. Or the narrator has dreamed this dream many times. Or it is the dream of the woman most strongly desires to dream. So definitely the answer will have to be this, right? She wants to hear the dream, because if you remember, she wants her to tell the dream so that she can steal that dream, sort of, right? So that's the idea. So it was simple, because nothing else really makes sense at all, right? All right, moving on. 7. According to the passage, one of the woman's worries about her present situation is that the woman we're talking about is the woman who doesn't dream. So what worries her right now? Will begin to dream too much? Is she worried about beginning to dream too much? Or suspects the narrator will desert her, as in, the narrator will abandon her? Or is it will watch her dreams become nightmares or stand out as different from others? What would you think? What would you think that the woman, her present situation is? She's worried about what, right? Do you think she's worried about beginning to dream too much? I don't think so. She's not dreaming at all, so this is definitely not a question. Do you suspect that the narrator will desert her? Do you think that the woman who does not dream think that the narrator who tells her the dreams, who tells her to say, it's okay, you probably could dream if you can open that eye, right? I don't think so. Will watch her dreams become nightmares? Do you think that's the idea? I don't think she thinks that is even a dream. You get the idea? She thinks that it's not even a dream it's not even a dream when she stands in front of the door on the threshold that she can't open, right? Narrator tells her that's even a dream. That's like a nightmare, but she doesn't probably know that's a nightmare. So the best possible answer is this, right? She thinks that she stands out as different from others, because she says in the middle somewhere, we read that part, if you remember well, it says something of, I can't exactly remember, right? There you go. There it is, right there. It says, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4th, 5th paragraph, okay? A dream is a piece of writing, she says sadly, a work that I don't know how to write, and that makes me different from others, right? All human beings and all animals who dream. That's what she's saying. So she thinks that she is different from others, or not having the dream makes her different from others, and that's something that really bothers her. That's something that really worries, right? And that's what human beings are. Human beings want to relate to others, and if you can, then you feel very bad and sad. And because you can't relate to the others, you become a psychopath or a sociopath, because you can't really relate to the others. And we usually say that person has lost the humanity, because that person cannot relate with others. They cannot feel what others feel. They don't have that empathy or sympathy at all, right? They just simply can't do that. And so that's what she's saying. She thinks that she wants to be able to. She wants to be able to be the same as everybody else, but she feels that she's different now, right? From what I read, I don't know if it's true, but psychopath or sociopath, they don't really dream, or sociopath maybe, but psychopath they don't, because dream is where you process your thoughts, right? Process the things that happened earlier. But psychopaths really don't do that, because they don't really feel the necessity to relate to the events that happen around them, right? They become just very logical of things. Well, I don't know. You need to find out for yourself, but that's, just me. So anyways, that's the idea, right? So you found that answer. Good. All right. The next one stands out different from others. Number 8, based on the narrator's account, the woman's approach to dreaming the narrator's dream is best described as. We already know this. How does she do it? She goes into the dark room, right? Sits and hides in a corner, or maybe hide in a dark room, and she wants to steal that dream, okay? So is it confrontational, powerful, or is it enthusiastic and playful, or is it precise and confident, or is it self-conscious and very secretive? The answer, of course, should be very secretive and self-conscious, right? Why is that? Because after listening to her dream, she goes into her little room in a very dark place, hiding, right? And she wants to dream that same dream, because it's very secretive and it's very self-conscious, right? Very self-conscious. She wants to dream that dream, self-conscious, right? And then she also is doing it in a very secretive manner, right? Okay, simple as that. Number 9, as it is used in line 58, the word humor most nearly means. Now, you know what humor means, right? Meaning funny or whatever. So is it personality, or is it whim? Is it mood, or is it comedy? Now, of course, if it were to be, right, exactly what it was, it should be comedy, right? But I don't think we're talking about comedy here. So let's go to line 58 and look at dream. So if you go to line 58, we'll find it right here somewhere, right? So we'll read from 54. Remember, it's always prudent for you to read from just before that line so that you know what that line holds as it goes into that line, right? So, but to dream someone else's dream is harder than writing someone else's story. And her failures fill her with irritation. She thinks that I have a power that she doesn't have, and this brings out her envy and bad humor. So, bad humor, right? So, what do we mean by that? So, what happens is that she thinks that dreaming is a power, and the narrator, the woman who doesn't dream, thinks that the narrator has power over her, and that's why she feels very envious of, and then she has that bad humor. So what are we talking about? Is it bad comedy, or is it bad whim, or is it bad whatever the other word, or is it bad mood, right? So the idea here, the best thing that fits would be the bad mood. She's always in a bad mood, and she's always in an envious mood, right? So therefore, the answer for number 9, the humor, personality. So personality not it, whim is not it, bad mood should be, bad comedy not it, right? So the answer has to be bad mood. Okay? Simple as that. All right, lastly, number 10. In the passage, the narrator most nearly describes Kafka as someone who? Kafka, right? So let's go to number Kafka, or at least let's try to find Kafka, right? I just don't remember what the question was stating. Did it give lines or whatnot? But let's try to find Kafka, right? Just to give you a background, I'm not too much into the like the psychological readings and whatnot. But I've read this one novel by Murakami Haruki. He's a Japanese writer. And he's most famous for some of the Freudian psychology related, like novels. And one of the novels he wrote was the Kafka related. I think it was it Kafka in the Beach, or Kafka of the Beach, or whatever the name was. The story most nearly focused on dreams and sexuality, and how human beings are, the whole Freudian psychology, the psychoanalysis of it, right? So anyways, let's try to find Kafka, right? Going through, I don't see Kafka here. Going through, I don't see Kafka here. Going through, I don't see Kafka here. Oh, I don't see it there as well. Or let's go through here, straight line way, damp and fish swimming around. This is the amniotic dreams that she had, right? So we have to find that word Kafka, and the most, I guess, the closest thing that you need to look at would be somewhere here, right? Because we're talking about, from here, I don't think it should appear here somewhere, because they're talking about the dream itself and how, it's hard to dream or whatnot. So I think it's from here somewhere. So let's just carefully scan through, say blah, 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 blah. There you go, Kafka, right? So that's where it comes up. So definitely we'll read that part. Bad humor. She thinks that the world of dreams is an extra life that some of us have, and her curiosity is the only halfway satisfied when I am finished telling her the last one. To tell dreams is one of the most difficult arts. Perhaps only author Franz Kafka was able to do so without spoiling their mystery and trivializing their symbols or making them rational. So I guess there was an author named Franz Kafka, right? Franz Kafka, and he probably wrote about the dreams, and it says, without spoiling their mysteries. So trivializing their symbols or making them rational. So he was a master storyteller of the dreams. So Kafka, what about Kafka, right? So the last question, number 10. Kafka as someone who diminished dreams by trying to unravel their mysteries, or explain the underlying rationality of dream symbols, convey the essence of dreams in his writing, or found it too difficult to describe dreams artfully. So definitely, right? The answer has to be convey the essence of dreams in his writing, right? Simple as that. All you had to do was find the word Kafka, Franz Kafka, and you'd be able to ask the question, right? So again, the passage itself was difficult to understand, but I'm pretty sure the process of it, right? The solving process, the solution process of it was not that difficult, right? I'm hoping that you get this. I'm hoping that you finalize your thoughts about prose fiction, and so that you will not miss a question in prose fiction in your real test. All right? So we will wrap it up here. The prose fiction, of course, we'll wrap it up here. All right? We'll move on to the social sciences.